Have you ever felt like no matter how much you give, it's still not enough to earn basic respect? You show up early, you over-deliver, you sacrifice time, energy, comfort for people who barely even notice. And yet, they interrupt you in meetings, they joke at your expense. They ignore your boundaries like they mean nothing. And worst of all, they act like you mean nothing. At first, you stay quiet, you take the high road. You tell yourself, stay professional. Don't take it personally. But something inside you knows better. The tension builds, the resentment grows. And then that quiet voice inside you finally asks, why am I still allowing this? If you're over 40, you've spent decades building your business, your mindset, your integrity. You've earned more than just respect. You've earned the right to set the tone. But let me be clear. Respect isn't given. It's not begged for, it's commanded. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how. We're breaking down 7 powerful ways to handle people who don't respect you. And I want you to stay with me until the end. Because way number 7, it's not just important. It's transformational. It's the shift that will change how you show up, how others respond to you, and why. They'll begin to respect you without you ever needing to ask. Let's begin. Number 1, the silent stare, power through non-reaction. Imagine this. You're in a meeting. You speak, and someone cuts in. You offer an idea, they wave it off. You finish a point, and they just smirk, lean back, say nothing. They didn't insult you directly, but something about their look, like your presence is an inconvenience. It hits you. You ever had that moment where someone disrespects you, but just enough under the radar to make you question if it's even worth responding? So you freeze. You think, should I speak up? Let it go? Make a joke? But what if the most powerful move was to say absolutely nothing? The Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That means don't react like they expect you to. Don't feed the fire they're lighting. Don't trade your peace for a moment of satisfaction. So what do? You look at them, not with anger, not with fear, but with silence, with stillness, with presence. You hold their gaze, not to intimidate, but to stand in your own gravity. No blinking, no smirking, no flinching, just a calm, steady stare. That says, I see what you're doing. And it doesn't move me. Let me tell you about Robert, a business owner I worked with in his mid-50s. Built his company from the ground up, 120 employees. Real deal. But even with all his success, there was this one regional manager, younger guy, arrogant, always trying to push back in meetings, cutting him off, rolling his eyes, subtle, but disrespectful. Robert told me, I kept trying to be the mentor, the bigger person. But nothing changed. Until one day, it did. The manager made a snide comment about Robert being out of touch. Everyone at the table laughed nervously. Robert didn't say a word. He leaned back, folded his arms, and just stared, not angry, not amused. Just grounded. 5 seconds, maybe 7. The guy looked down, lost his momentum, started fumbling his next sentence. And the room, it shifted. After the meeting, 2 team members pulled Robert aside and said, I don't know what that was, but it was powerful. That's the silent stare. It's not passive. It's command without aggression. It's showing them you won't dance for their amusement. It's reclaiming your posture, your breath, your place in the room. Because here's the truth. People who are used to disrespecting others, they're rarely confronted. They're rarely shown a mirror. So when you look at them calmly, steadily, you become that mirror. And most people, they can't bear the reflection.
Number 2, stop explaining yourself. Own your decisions without justifying them.
Let me ask you something. How many hours of your life have you wasted explaining yourself to someone who had already made up their mind about you? Think about it. You make a change, switch careers, cancel plans, set a boundary, and suddenly, they act like you owe them a full-on PowerPoint presentation. Why would you leave that job? You're not coming to the event? Wait, why are you doing that now? But here's what they're really saying. Why are you doing something that makes me uncomfortable? And if you're not careful, you'll spend your life justifying decisions that were never anyone else's to approve. The Stoics warned us, a man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. Seneca. And that's exactly what happens when you keep explaining yourself. You suffer twice, once in the weight of your decision, and again in the guilt that others project onto you. Let me tell you about Michael, a former banker I coached. He spent 22 years in finance, 6 figures, stable job, good benefits, but every day he felt more numb, more disconnected from what truly mattered. At 47, he made the bold decision to walk away, not into retirement, but into something he actually loved, woodworking. He started crafting tables, cabinets, pieces with his own 2 hands, and it lit him up. But the moment word got out, here came the judgment. What about your 401k? You left Wall Street to build furniture. You're throwing it all away. At first, Michael tried to explain, it's about meaning, craftsmanship, purpose. But every answer just led to more doubt, more criticism, more second-guessing. He told me, the more I explained, the more I started to wonder if they were right. Until one day, at a dinner party, someone asked, so why'd you give all that up? And Michael replied calmly, because I wanted to. That was it. No follow-up, no detail, just clarity. And in that moment, he told me I felt free. Here's what most people never realize. Confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need applause. It just knows. The truth is, people who demand explanations from you are often just trying to tether you to their comfort zone. Your growth challenges their complacency. Your courage highlights their inaction. So they question you, not to understand, but to pull you back in line. But your life, it's not a democracy. It's not a debate. It doesn't need a public vote. You don't owe your coworkers an explanation for why you left. You don't owe your family a pitch deck on why you skipped the reunion. You don't owe the world a footnote for every bold move you make, because you don't need permission to be free. You just need conviction. So here's your reminder. The next time someone asks, why? Just say, because I wanted to, or it felt right. Then stop and let the silence speak. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you stop asking others to validate the part of you that already knows the answer. You stop leaking power in exchange for approval. You stop living like your life has to be marketed. And instead, you start walking your path, unapologetic, undiluted, undeniable. And before we move on, let me ask you something. Have you ever made a bold decision and then found yourself explaining it to someone who just didn't get it? Maybe it was a career shift, a boundary you set, or simply saying no when everyone expected you to say yes. If so, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and share. What's one decision you made that didn't need an explanation, but you gave one anyway?
And what did you learn from that moment? Because the moment you own your choices, you stop playing small and you start showing the world who's really in charge. Number 3, create distance. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Let me ask you something. Why do we keep people close who constantly make us feel small? Why do we keep returning the calls, showing up to the dinners, replying to the texts, even when every interaction leaves us feeling drained, judged, disrespected? Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's habit, maybe we've been conditioned to believe that walking away makes us the bad guy. But here's a hard truth. You don't owe proximity to people who dishonor your peace. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is this: you control what you allow into your inner circle, and the people you keep close, they shape everything: your thoughts, your energy, your identity. Epictetus said it best: avoid fraternizing with negative people, for they bring about useless anxieties. Let that sink in for a moment. We spend so much time trying to be understanding of others that we forget how much of our life is being silently consumed by the energy vampires in our circle. Let me tell you about Kevin. He's 52, former corporate executive turned small business owner, built a thriving logistics company in Indiana, but for years, he kept close ties with a group of former colleagues, the old lunch crew. Every Friday, same table, same people. At first, it was fine, familiar, safe, but over time, Kevin started to notice something. Every conversation felt like a competition. They mocked his decision to leave the corporate world. They threw jabs at his staff, his vision, his ambition. One guy always said, "So how's the midlife crisis going?" with a smirk. It was masked as humor, but the sting, it was real. And Kevin, he kept showing up, out of loyalty, out of comfort, out of fear of burning bridges, until one Friday. One of them laughed and said, "You really think you're going to build something bigger than what you had? Come on, man." And this time, Kevin didn't explain. He didn't argue. He didn't defend. He just smiled, paid for his meal, and left early. He never went back. No announcement, no confrontation, just quiet distance. That one choice, to walk away from disrespect instead of trying to explain himself to it, changed everything. Kevin told me later, "It was like getting my mental bandwidth back. I didn't realize how heavy those Fridays had become until I stopped carrying them." And that's the point. Creating distance isn't about anger. It's not about revenge. It's about clarity. It's realizing that access to you is a privilege, not a given. Your energy, your time, your focus, they are limited. And every minute spent with someone who doesn't believe in you is a minute stolen from someone who does. But we hesitate because society tells us to be nice, be loyal, be forgiving. But here's the truth they don't tell you. Loyalty to toxic people is betrayal to yourself. You weren't put here to shrink for other people's comfort. You weren't born to dull your edge so others feel secure in their stagnation. Sometimes the boldest thing you can do is take a step back and let silence fill the space they used to occupy. And when you do that, something powerful happens. The guilt fades. The fog lifts, and you finally remember how peaceful life can feel when it's not under siege by passive aggression and emotional games. So if someone consistently mocks you, dismisses you, drains you, you don't need to fight them. You don't need to fix them. You just need to walk a little further each time until they're no longer within reach. Protect your peace like it's priceless, because it is. Your life is a limited access space, and not everyone deserves a VIP pass. Number 4,
Hold your head high. Stand in your self-worth, no matter who tries to dim it. Do you remember the last time someone tried to shrink you with nothing more than a look? Maybe it was subtle. They didn't say it outright, but their tone, their silence, their smirk, it said everything. Disrespect isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, in side glances and sarcastic compliments. Sometimes it hides in the way they avoid eye contact, as if your presence doesn't even register. And in those moments, it's tempting to shrink, to second-guess yourself, to wonder, is it just me? But the Stoics had a different answer. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be E1." And that's what this moment demands. Not a reaction, not a defense, but a return to your center. See, when you hold your head high, especially when someone tries to tear you down, you're making a silent, defiant declaration. I know my worth, and I won't let your insecurity rewrite my identity. Let me tell you about James. He's 59, built his business from nothing, a small manufacturing company that now supports 40 families. Quiet guy, steady, always about service, never about spotlight. But every month he'd attend an industry roundtable, a place where, ironically, his so-called peers would downplay his success. They'd call him old school, mock his use of paper invoices, say things like, "You still doing that little garage shop of yours?" All with a smile. At first, James would just laugh it off, try to stay polite, diplomatic, but over time, the jokes started to sting. He felt smaller in that room, like his legacy didn't matter anymore in a world of tech startups and venture capital buzzwords. Until one day, something shifted. A new member joined, 35 years old, booming e-commerce business. But instead of mocking James, this young founder asked, "You've been in this game longer than I've been alive. What's one thing you've learned that never changes?" And in that moment, James sat up straighter. He looked around the table, saw the smirks, the silence, and said, loud and clear, "Respect is earned through consistency, not noise." The room went still. And for the first time in months, James felt his confidence return. Because that's the thing. When you hold your head high, others don't have to give you permission to matter. You give it to yourself. Your posture tells a story, long before your words do. And people can feel it. Confidence, real confidence, isn't arrogance. It's not the loudest voice or the biggest paycheck. It's the quiet strength of someone who doesn't flinch when they're underestimated. It's walking into the room as if you belong, even when no one saves you a seat. It's smiling at the passive-aggressive comment, not because it didn't hurt, but because it didn't define you. And here's what most don't realize. People who disrespect you, they're not reacting to you. They're reacting to what you represent. Your composure threatens their chaos. Your consistency challenges their excuses. Your calm self-worth, it unsettles their need for control. So they poke, they push, they test your center. But the moment you break, they win. And the moment you stand tall, breathe deeply, and look them in the eye, without blinking, you take all their power away. That's not just poise. That's philosophical warfare. That's spiritual clarity, because at the end of the day, your posture isn't just about your body, it's about your mind. So straighten your back, lift your chin. Walk like your presence belongs, because it does. And if anyone has a problem with your confidence, that's their discomfort to carry, not yours. Remember this, you don't need to raise your voice. You just need to remember who you are. And when you do, the people who once doubted you, they'll either back off or fall away. Either way, you win. Number 5, Embrace silence. Reclaim your energy with stillness. Let me ask you something. How many times have you walked away from a conversation completely exhausted? Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Maybe it was a coworker who turned every comment into a competition. Maybe it was a family member who disguised criticism as just being honest. Or maybe it was someone who constantly challenged your boundaries just to see how much you tolerate. And every time you told yourself, next time I'll say something better. Next time I'll stand my ground. But somehow you still left feeling more drained than empowered. Here's what the Stoics understood that most people completely miss. He who does not know how to be silent will not know how to speak. Seneca. That's the power of silence, not as submission, not as retreat, but as a form of inner discipline, a filter that protects your peace. Let me tell you about Angela. She's a senior advisor at a medical tech firm just outside Boston. Respected, accomplished, loved by her team. But for years, she worked under a department head who turned her job into a silent war zone. Every meeting, a trap. Every update, a personal jab, cloaked in professionalism. He never attacked her directly. Just quiet little digs. I suppose that's one way to do it. Or some of us prefer newer methods. It was never loud, never enough to escalate, but always enough to make her doubt her instincts, to make her question her own value. At first, Angela did what most of us do. She explained, she clarified, she defended herself again and again, but she noticed something strange. The more she explained, the worse she felt, like every word she offered was being turned into a weapon. Until one day, she made a decision. She stopped explaining. She stopped reacting. She let his comments hang in the air like unfinished sentences, and she refused to fill the silence. The first few times, it felt awkward. The room went tense. But then, something shifted. Without her feeding the pattern, he lost momentum. His digs started to fall flat, and more importantly, Angela began to feel whole again, because that's what silence does. It shields your soul from unnecessary battles. It lets the disrespect echo, not through you, but around you. When you stay silent in the face of petty attacks, you're not letting them win. You're letting them reveal themselves. Because people who rely on provocation to feel powerful, they depend on your reaction, your words, your defense. Take that away, and they have nothing to stand on. The more Angela embraced silence, the more her team saw her calm as strength, and the less her critics' noise even mattered. Here's what you need to remember. Silence is not passive. It's not weakness. It's a bold, unshakable statement that says, I'm no longer giving you access to my energy. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every jab. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. In fact, you protect your power by refusing to explain it. So the next time someone tries to rattle you with sarcasm, passive aggression, or manipulation, let silence be your armor. Let it absorb the noise. Let it reclaim what was always yours, your clarity, your calm, your control. Because once you realize not every comment deserves your attention, you begin to take your life back, one quiet breath at a time. Number 6, shift the focus. It's not about you. Let me ask you something personal. How many sleepless nights have you spent wondering what you did wrong? When someone treated you with disrespect, was it something you said? Should you have explained yourself better? Did you somehow invite that behavior? Here's the hard truth. Most of the time, it's not about you at all. People who disrespect others usually do so from a place of inner chaos, not clarity. They lash out because they're overwhelmed, because they're insecure, because they're secretly threatened. And when they project that pain onto you, it's easy to internalize it. But the Stoics teach us to look deeper. When someone acts badly toward you, remember, it is their behavior, not yours. Don't take it personally. Epictetus. Now, imagine this. John, a seasoned consultant with 20 years in the game, was leading a team training for a new client. From day one, the operations lead, a younger exec, acted dismissive. He cut John off, questioned his insights, acted like he already knew everything. At first, John took it personally. He replayed meetings in his head. He second-guessed every word. But then, he stepped back and reframed the situation. He remembered the Stoic lens. This man wasn't reacting to John. He was reacting to his own fears. Fear of being replaced. Fear of looking inexperienced. Fear of losing control. So John made a shift. He stopped chasing validation. He spoke calmly. He didn't over-explain. And he let the results speak for themselves. And then something amazing happened. The younger exec started to soften. He began to listen. And eventually, he even asked John for mentorship. Because that's what happens when you stop making other people's behavior about you. You take back your emotional power. You stop shrinking. You stop questioning your worth. And you start seeing people for who they really are, not through the distorted lens of your own self-doubt. So the next time someone disrespects you, take a pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is this about something they haven't resolved in themselves? That shift in focus changes everything. You become less reactive, more grounded, and unshakably clear on your own value, no matter how others behave. Because your worth doesn't need their recognition, it just needs your reminder. Number 7, reaffirm your standards. Self-respect before respect. You want others to respect you. But let me ask you something deeper. Have you respected yourself lately? Not just in your words, but in your habits, your boundaries, your time. You see, respect doesn't start when others finally see your worth. It starts the moment you do. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Because real freedom begins with self-discipline, and real respect, it starts within. Let's talk about Carla, a business owner running a thriving design studio. She was known for over-delivering, always available, always accommodating. Clients loved her work, but they paid late, asked for last-minute revisions, and assumed she'd just understand. For years, Carla said yes. Until one night, sitting in her home office at 11:47 p.m. revising yet another unpaid scope creep, she didn't snap with anger, she snapped with clarity. The next morning, she rewrote her contracts, she raised her rates, she introduced late fees, she defined her office hours and stuck to them. And yes, some clients left, but the ones who stayed, they respected her more than ever. Why? Because she finally respected herself first. This is the secret most people miss. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting the version of you that thrives, not the one that just survives. When you reaffirm your standards, you stop teaching people that your time is flexible, your energy is disposable, or your kindness is infinite. Respect is earned, not by demanding it loudly, but by living it silently. Your posture, your pricing, your calendar, your circle, your habits. All of these send a message about what you tolerate and what you don't. So here's your challenge. Audit your life. Where are you saying yes when your soul is screaming no? Where are you bending, shrinking, accommodating at your own expense? Now, flip the script. What if, starting today, you move through your day like someone who respects their energy? How would you speak? What would you decline? What would you no longer tolerate? That's not arrogance, that's alignment. And when you start respecting yourself like that, the world has no choice but to follow. Respect isn't something you chase, it's something you radiate. So now, it's your turn. Take a moment, look at your life, look at the people, the energy, the patterns you've allowed in, and ask yourself, is this truly who I am or who I've settled to become? Here's the good news. You don't need to fight to be seen. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to explain your worth to anyone who can't see it. What you need is to own it, quietly, consistently, powerfully. Because the moment you start carrying yourself like a man who protects his peace, honors his time, and refuses to be pulled into small battles, everything shifts. And if the wrong people don't notice, that's fine. The right people will. So if this message stirred something in you, let that be your quiet turning point. Tap that like button, subscribe for more Stoic strength, and share this with someone who's done settling for less. Because you were never meant to beg for respect. You were born to embody it. And now, it's time the world saw that too.